Nebraska is known for being the domain of American billionaire Warren Buffett and the birthplace of Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah!
What's lesser known to us folks outside of the Cornhusker State is that it's also known for one of the most convenient and comforting foods in the entire US. Welcome back to Cookin' the States, a series where we cook a famous dish from a different state in every episode in an attempt to better understand the true identity of American food. If you've never heard of a fast food spot called Runza, I wouldn't blame you. Well, little plastic never hurt anyone. Runza is a hyper-regional chain of fast food restaurants located mostly in Nebraska, with a couple locations in Colorado, Kansas, and Iowa. The joint specializes in just that, the Runza. You can think of it as a cross between a burger, a Hot Pocket, and maybe a calzone. Yeah, that sounds right. It's essentially a yeast dough stuffed with ground beef and cabbage. The dough is enriched with things like milk and egg, just like you saw here, so it's going to be super tender and very rich. Once you add your all-purpose flour on top of those wet ingredients, you're going to attach the dough hook and run the machine just until the dough comes together. Then cut it and let the whole thing rest for 15 minutes. This stage is called the auto-lease. It's going to help us develop gluten. Now add the kosher salt to the top of the dough and mix over medium speed until the dough turns smooth and shiny, about 8 minutes. Okay, so we gotta cover this. This dough is very reminiscent of that of the German Bierach because, well, a Runza is pretty much a Bierach. In other words, a stuffed German pastry. More on that in a second though. In the meantime, go ahead and shape that dough into a smooth ball, lube it up with some oil, and allow it to rest on the counter, covered for 1 to 2 hours or until nearly doubled in size. Okay, let's talk filling. The OG Bierach or Runza features a filling of ground beef, onions, and cabbage in one form or another. That can be cooked cabbage or Sauerkraut, which is fermented cabbage. Yeah, remember when I said this thing was basically German? Well, that's because it turns out that the Bierach was brought over to the US by German immigrants who, at the time, were mostly living in Russia. These German Russians migrated to the Midwestern United States sometime in the early 1900s, bringing with them, you guessed it, the Bierach, aka the Runza. So this filling recipe is the general base, and once you have this, you can feel free to add things like cheese, roasted vegetables, or spices, really whatever else gets you randy, you can pop it in your Runza. One thing that I am going to mention is no matter what you add, make sure that your mixture is dry. That is, cook off all of the moisture from those vegetables and drain off the excess grease from the beef before stuffing your pastry. Otherwise, you could end up with a sloppy, broken Runza. Trust me, it happened to me. Next up in the mixture comes sauerkraut. You can either put cabbage in if you want, I have directions for that on the website, or my preferred thing is sauerkraut. It's a little tangier, more interesting, fermented, it's nice. So we got two types here. This is just a beet caraway sauerkraut that I just kind of whipped up a few days back. If you want the full recipe for this, it's going to be available on Patreon. Totally unnecessary, but very delicious. This is regular sauerkraut. No shame in the game, this stuff's amazing too. We're going to use this. Notice how that sauerkraut was dripping with brine. You're going to add that to your pan. Be sure to cook off that moisture or simply squeeze it out before adding it to your pan. Pop the filling into something heat-proof, then put it in the freezer to cool down before stuffing it into your pastry, or again, you could end up with a sloppy Runza, so make sure it's cool. Aww. Alright, this dough recipe makes enough for roughly 8 Runza sandwiches. You're going to start off by dividing the dough into 8 equal parts, either by eye or, if you're a nerd like me, with a scale. Then shape those portions into flat discs. Using plenty of flour, use the tips of your little fingies to flatten the dough into a square, then pinch the corners and do your best to stretch the dough out into a rectangle. Now, I'm not going to front here, I totally made this technique up for this video when I was testing for this. It's a little odd, but if you follow what I'm doing on screen, you're going to be fine. Place about a cup of filling into the bottom half of the Runza, then wet the sides with a bit of water, using your little fingies again. Then fold the top over and seal in the edges. From here, you can work the Runza into an even rectangle, then set it on a parchment-lined sheet tray to proof for another 40 minutes or until noticeably puffier. While you're waiting for the Runza to proof, go ahead and preheat that oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Boom. If you actually look at what a Runza looks like from Runza, they're usually a little matted, a little dry looking, not egg washed. At this point, you totally can rub it with some egg wash. They'll be glossy and beautiful and yellow. I'm gonna try to keep it a little authentic, so these are gonna go in like this. Bake the Runza for 25 to 30 minutes or until nice and golden. Woo! Dusty boys. Or girls. The end result should be something like this. A super filling, convenient, and clean beef-laced bread puff ready to keep you warm through the rough Midwestern winter. Ow. Or keep you sweating during the hot, humid Midwestern summers, whatever you're into. I feel like a paleontologist. Show us that beautiful GB color of yours, Runzas. For brownie puntos, go ahead and serve this thing up with your favorite flavor of Kool-Aid. There you go. Oh my God, it's like gonna dye my soul.
For a pitcher or for a glass?
I don't know. I'm just going for it, dude. It's so red, it's definitely for a pitcher. Look at this little potato of love. Kind of powdery, very soft and tender. Definitely looks like a potato. Let's cut into it. Oh yeah, that is nice. Classic. Kool-Aid Man help. Nice. I haven't had that since I was like a tween. Dude, this thing's like a mixture between Hot Pocket, a calzone, and a burger. Really nice. I just like, you know, it's the German, Russian influence maybe, but I need some mustard on there. Look at that little. Yeah, I can get into that. Add 1 cup of sugar. It makes 2 quarts. And that's all she wrote, Nebraska. Those things are pretty good. Next time, in alphabetical order, that is correctamundo, we are going to the desert. We're going to Nevada, or Nevada, depending on where you come from. Like usual, if you think you know what we're gonna make, comment it below. Take a smack at it. It would really help us out a lot if you shared the video with a friend or family. Another great way to help the channel is to support over on Patreon. We got a whole lot of fun stuff going on over there, including exclusive recipes, like the one in this video. Like the video if you dug the video. If you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. If you're not new here, you know what's good. Put it there, dude. That's pretty much all I got for you. Until next time, au revoir.